Hello YouTube, welcome back to another Poll Plans video. We'll be taking a look at all of the upcoming content for Aranea in, October. As we get started, please remember to like the video, drop a comment, subscribe, yada yada. Share the video around. Maybe it will help some people be more decisive or promote good thinking. I don't know, whatever. Please keep in mind that I am recording this on Friday the 24th. So we haven't seen the community stream yet. So there may or may not be, some changes that take place as far as scheduling or banners moving up or down or whatever. So take all of this with a pinch of salt. That being said, let's get into it. So first up for the month, we've got Divine Pandemonium, which should be coming with the release of the brand new Burst Plus. I could make a video on how all the Burst Plus stuff works. If that's what people would like to see, I don't mind doing it. But I'm pretty sure that there are much better, much more informative content creators out there. So go check them out. Shout out to Joe and BC here. I think I'll leave a link, or maybe I'll just put a card in right around here in this time to the videos that they have already released on that subject. So, characters, right? This time we get LD boards for Rinoa and Beatrix, as well as a brand new LD for Zidane, along with a burst, and reworked LD boards and BT Plus or Y'shtola. Obviously, Zidane gets the BT Plus as well. So, starting with the character that everybody's going to be wanting from this, Zidane, however you want to pronounce it. He does get a rework here on his kit. So Stellar Circle 5 becomes an AoE Brave attack with multiple HP dumps, and he does get refund in between each of them. His skill 2, free energy, now gets a couple more uses, so he's able to skill spam a lot more, and it becomes a 2 HP dumping attack. So 2 HP attacks on, and it does also have the refund between. So basically, his base skills, he's going to be using them a lot more frequently, and they hit a lot harder, like a lot harder, which is really, really nice. It feels good. For the first time, Zidane feels really, really good. His brand new LD, which I want to say the attack is called Solution 9, I think. It starts out by canceling the enemy's break status. So if they are already broken, he's going to re-break them here. And it's an AoE attack with 3 HP dumps and split damage. But he does regain Brave in between each of those HP attacks, so it's going to be hitting pretty hard. It also deals weakness damage to any enemy that already has the Thief Smart debuff on it, which is pretty much how all of his skills and abilities work. And if they don't already have it on there, it will inflict it as well. So all of your other stuff is going to be doing more damage. After that, right, it gives him a free skill use on the next turn, which is nice because he's going to be spamming skills like nobody's business. He also gets a single-use HP attack, which cancels their break status, just like the LD does. And then it's a Brave HP attack, I think it's 2 or 3 hits, something like that, that has low action delay and grants him a free skill use on the next turn. So effectively, you're getting I want to say his skills are 9 and 10 uses, I believe. 9 for, or maybe it's 10 and 9, something like that. Point being, he's getting an additional 8 free skill uses, because he has 4 uses of his LD. 8 free skills throughout the course of the fight, in addition to the ones he's already got. Plus, his EX charges quickly, plus you've got the LD. And we haven't even talked about the BT. So basically, you will be pressing a skill every turn. Oh yeah, don't forget Mug off of his EX. So, Zidane, he's coming loaded and ready for bear. Additionally, his LD grants him an overhead buff, or a special effect, not a buff, which grants him attack and overflow up. It also grants him HP damage up, and brave damage increased, so brave damage up, versus debuff targets. And anytime that he breaks someone, he first of all gets an additional, like a free turn immediately, sort of like Jacked and Lightning and characters like that, Arden. And he will also delete the enemy's turn. So basically he steals their turn and makes it his own. And that happens anytime that he breaks them. So with your LD and your LD HP attack, you're going to be doing that at least 8 times in a fight, not to mention all the times that the enemy's turn is going to come around and they're going to be unbroken, because Zidane, he speeds himself up. I think he's got like a 30 or 40% speed up or something like that, in addition to, having the like low action delay and stuff like that. So he's going to be getting a ton of turns. He would be really good with a like follow-up unit like Yang, or maybe you're going to be running Core or something like that. And he also, with all of this stuff, he's going to be getting to start with this overhead buff, as well as the speed and defense up from his, I think that's skill 2. So basically you're getting a running start with him. I think you start skill 1 and then just go to town. As for his BT, its effect, its attack, it's an AoE attack that's triggered 6 times. That gives you the effect, it's giving your party Brave Cap up, plus 20%. So that's the limit of Brave damage they can deal. So on a basic character that has, no high armor or whatever, they're going to be able to deal 11,998 per Brave hit. So this is going to increase your per hit Brave damage. He also increases party Brave damage by 40%, which is really good. He increases HP damage to enemies with debuffs by 20%. Since this is Zidane in the party, it's basically everybody. And then he also grants you 20% Stolen Overflow. And when he breaks, not when he breaks an enemy, when he inflicts a debuff, he'll trigger a special effect called, I don't know the exact translation of it, but something like Stolen Elixir or something like that. That gives your party it heals them, right, for 100% of their max HP and 50% of their max Brave. And with the HP heal, any HP that's healed it like in excess of their max, so it doesn't overheal you like Porum or Cecil would, but it converts all that extra healing to Brave like Leon would, basically. As for his BT+, it increases the first stage, and this is kind of common for all of the BT+. The first stage, when you just put a book into it, is going to increase the potency of the attack. So it gets extra hits, basically, on each HP dump, and that's about it. Still do a lot more damage, but, As for the additional effects that you get from BT+, it will further increase the Brave damage that he's giving to your party. So instead of 40% Brave damage up, it becomes 60, which is huge. Keep in mind that a lot of Lufenia Plus fights, towards the end of it, the enemies will get like 90% Brave damage reduction. This counteracts that just with the BT effect, right? And additionally, his BT Plus will increase the amount of battery that you get off of inflicting debuffs with the Stolen Elixir. So it now becomes 100% of his max Brave, which is great because he's got a huge max Brave up buff on his EX. This is great. Zidane is a great character. You could book him, you could green him, either way, and he will last you a very long time, because going forward, BT units don't really, quote unquote, fall off. If you take care of them, you put them in the right teams, you work to their strengths, you're going to be coasting for a really long time on these characters. That being said, there is one known rerun, or I guess 2 now, of Zidane's LD and BT. Well, just his LD, actually. They're in the Snow Burst cycle, which is actually going right now on JP. There is a sort of like mini banner that has what is it? Snow. It's got Zidane's full kit, so that's his LD and his burst, and then it's got Ferris's LD. Additionally, we've got a second rerun. This one's just his LD that comes out with the release of Cinque, which is, what is that, Act 3, Chapter 7? Is it 7 or 8 that we're on right now? Anyways, it's the Part 2 Cinque's release, still on Snow's burst cycle. So you can also choose to pick up Zidane here. His bannermate here is Beatrix, the originally global first character who is getting her, it's a rerun of her LD, as well as she finally gets her LD boards now. And oh man, does she get the juice. She starts off by getting Self-Thunder Enchant, so all of her skills are going to be doing thunder damage now, and now her debuff from her LD, the Rose Petal debuff, is now getting Thunder Imperil on it, in addition to 20% defense down and increasing Brave damage that the enemy takes by 20%. So it's doing a lot more for your party, but it's also allowing Beatrix to hit so much harder. It's insane, right? In addition to that, anytime you hit the enemy when they have the LD debuff up, it obviously is going to be doing that follow-up, which is now like the trap, which also hits harder now and is also Thunder Elemental, so it's getting more damage because you're enchanting yourself and you're dealing damage of the same type, so it's kind of double dipping on that element. And it also gets splash damage. This is really impactful because now it's allowing those trap hits, or the follow-up hits, excuse me, to allow her to more effectively deal AoE damage, because that was kind of one of her weaknesses previously. Was the only AoE damage she had was her skill 2, which had splash, but it didn't hit all that hard, and her EX, which also didn't hit all that hard, and it was split damage. Now she's going to be doing a lot more brave damage to all the targets, so she's going to be able to really churn that out, and everything's got splash on it, which is this is really good. That being said, the part that makes it so absurd is that now anytime an enemy successfully hits one of your party members with a brave attack, HP attack, whatever, it doesn't matter, as long as they hit them, so it doesn't work when they evade. So no Galluf, no Edge, although, God, why would you run Edge? But now, anytime that they get hit, she will trigger her trap, her LD follow-up, as a counter attack, similar to like your Gladiolus or your Galluf or whatever. And it's the same attack. And it ignores defense. I forgot to mention that before. It is a defense ignoring attack, which is fantastic because Lufenia Plus is known for 3 things, and that's more defense, more brave damage reduction, and more brave gain reduction. That's the basic gist of what makes it different. So overall, she gets this nice, much more cohesive kit, and it just comes together really well, right? She gets to start the fight, every wave, the enemies are going to come in with her LD debuff on them already. This is all, it's really good. And honestly, in my opinion, she is probably the better character. I know it probably sounds insane because Zidane has a burst, but on this banner, if I didn't already have Beatrix's LD, that would be what I would be aiming for, because it's so good. It will put in so much work for you. She's great. That being said, her high armor here is going to be the Encouragement Keystone, so she's getting a lot more battery off of everything that she does. And the high armor plus is the Braven HP split, which is pretty sweet. Moving on the other banner, we've got Rinoa and Y'shtola's stuff. So Rinoa gets her LD boards here, and this one's a little more complicated. Basically, the LD skill itself becomes a double dumping HP attack. It's still AoE brave hits, single target HP damage with splash. but it's going to be doing it twice now instead of just the once. As for her LD, what she gets from the stuff, the goods, right? Her LD buff, which is Pet's Warmth, right? It gives you more bravery gen, more gained overflow, so like battery and stuff like that, and party. And that's for everybody, right? And it gives party brave and HP damage up by 20% for brave damage and 10% HP damage, right? Now keep in mind, this is just with this LD buff up, right? Nothing else. However, Rinoa is a stance character, right? She's going back and forth between Angelo and Angel Wing. So while your LD buff, so while you have Pet's Warmth up with Angelo, while you're in the sort of support stance, she increases party brave and HP damage even more. So she's totaling out with them, giving them 40% brave damage up, which is really high on a support, right? That's really high for right now. And 20% HP damage up. This is really good. Like this is better than Agrius, for example. Okay. That being said, when you're in the other stance, when you're in DPS stance with Angel Wing, she keeps the 20% party brave damage up and the 10% party HP damage up, but she also gives herself 40%, so total of 50% brave damage up and 30% HP damage up. So in her support stance, she increases what the party's able to do as far as damage output with their brave and HP hits by a significant amount. But when she's in DPS stance, she's increasing her own personal damage by a lot, which is pretty nifty because while she's in DPS stance, they actually reworked her brave and HP pluses for Angel Wing stance. She gets more powerful versions that they now get multiple HP dumps. I believe it's the brave attack is single target, and the HP attack, it's single target with like 50% splash, I believe. But each one of them has multiple HP dumps, so she's able to, kind of give them a little bit of the, double and triple tap on those attacks. So she's able to churn out a lot more damage, which is really, really nice. Also, and this is pretty nifty here, and she's one of the first characters that we see that gets this sort of treatment. Her brave and HP attacks while she's in Angel Wing stance, they have the additional effect of increasing the rate at which her EX charges by, it's like 20%, I think. This is something that becomes a little more standard kind of going forward with characters like this who rely on brave attacks, HP attacks, stuff like that a lot, where you'll be able to get their EX up more quickly, which is really, really good because normally, if you've ever played Rinoa, that was one of her biggest weaknesses, was she always wanted to be using her EX because it was her hardest hitting attack by far. But because she was a character who relied so heavily on brave and HP hits, it took forever for it to get up. I think that once you actually EX'd with her, what you would do is you would use 3 turns of her braver HP attack in Angel Wing, and then you would pop an Angelo cannon, and maybe if you were lucky, your EX would be up. So that's like 4 turns between EX casts, which is not great. So this speeds her up a lot, makes her a lot more playable. She also gets High Armor Plus here. The base version is Unity, so it's increasing party brave damage. The High Armor Plus is the split armor, so it's going to increase your brave damage potential a little bit more as far as your brave damage cap, and it'll increase your HP damage cap as well, but just by like the tiniest bit less. Overall, I think she's a really neat character. I'm really happy to see her getting this rework. I will say, you don't see a whole lot of her, being used in content as far as clears and stuff like that. But do keep in mind that not everybody who plays JP uploads videos. Not everybody who plays JP bothered to pull for Rinoa or is even interested in her. So not all the people that have her kit are putting out videos, and not all the people that are putting out videos have her stuff. So just be aware, the number of clears or runs or whatever that you see on YouTube, it's an incredibly tiny sample size for a game that has, what are we at, 9 million players now or something stupid like that. So don't be one of those people who says something stupid like, oh well, you know, I never really saw people using her on YouTube, or I didn't hear people talking about her very much, she must not be very good, because it's crap. Don't be that person. It additionally occurs to me that I forgot to mention Zidane's High Armor and High Armor Plus. His High Armor is the Tactics Keystone, which is the sort of debuff armor, so it will allow him to further lower their stats while increasing his HP damage cap by quite a bit. As for his High Armor Plus, it's the Brave damage split, or it leans Brave damage. So basically he's able to hit these really high Brave numbers while still dealing pretty respectable HP damage on a given HP attack, which is pretty sweet. For the last part of the banners, we come to Y'shtola. Y'shtola's got a rework for her LD wards here, which can basically be boiled down to her overhead now does more stuff when your Brave is higher than your initial Brave at the start of your turn. So it's going to be giving your party Brave and HP damage up, as well as increased overflows. This is really easy to get to, given that Y'shtola has battery out the wazoo, and she's also got Brave Regen in her kit, so boom, done. Her LD itself, the attack now hits a lot harder and refunds Brave, and it will increase the number of stacks that you get on your Lily by an additional 2. So you should be able to immediately cap right to 3 every time you hit it, so you can turn around and hit them with Afflatus Misery, which will be a lot easier because the LD attack itself now no longer has action delay or turn count. So you can kind of wombo combo them with that. The arrows attack that she has, the Brave Plus, is now going to be able to hit a lot harder, and it now has 2 HP dumps attached to it with more refund in between the attacks and after it, as a matter of fact. So she's able to retain more Brave, so it's actually really safe as an attack, and it's going to be hitting a lot harder. Same thing for Afflatus Misery, which deals so much more damage. Oh my goodness. It's insane. Y'shtola is now a competitive, I don't want to say damage dealing support, but you get the idea. She's got the battery, she's got the buffs, she's got the BT effect, which now lasts for an additional 4 turns, so a total of 10, which is a really long time. But the BT plus effect, right? She's getting more overflow for the party. She's giving them more gained Brave overflow, right, when they are above their initial Brave, as well as giving them 50% increased Brave gains. So think Porum, think Agrius, who are big on increasing your green numbers, your Brave Regens, your battery. Y'shtola does that, but more. This is a really good BT plus, and this is probably going to be the one out of the 2 that I green first. Y'shtola is a super mega favorite for me. Favorite Final Fantasy XIV character, hands down. Although, big shout out to Alphino for being awesome. As for High Armor Plus, hers is the, Encouragement Armor, I believe? Or no, it's Support. It's Support. So it also leans in the HP direction. So your party's going to be able to deal more HP damage. If you're going to green her burst, you might as well blue the armor. You know what I mean? And as for known reruns, Y'shtola does have one of those mini banners, kind of like Zidane. This one comes after Thancred's LD, and so it's got Y'shtola's entire kit, so her LD and BT included, and it comes with Setzer LD. So if you weren't able to pick up Setzer's LD, then maybe this is a really good pick for you. Additionally, Y'shtola gets her C90 and a rework on Seymour's Intertwined Wills with his LD. So yeah, she's still doing really, really well on current day JP. And if you're looking for more places where you can see runs of her, which can go all the way up to the point where she gets that rework, where she gets that C90, do us all a favor, check out Alphano on YouTube, which, if I'm remembering to do it, I'll drop a card right here. Man, I've been talking for a long time, and I haven't even finished just Divine Pandemonium. Holy shit. So, speaking of Divine Pandemonium, the fight. This one, it's definitely the start of a new era. So, keep in mind, on this fight, the enemy, Pandemonium, is immune to freeze, paralysis, HP silence, and max brave down as debuffs. Okay. The orb itself is plus 10 when you're deleting a turn, and Pandemonium's the only one that has the orb, and it's plus 1 when you're granting at least one buff as part of your skill at various thresholds, which I believe are 80%, 50%, and 29%, 79, 49, and 29%. The enemy, so Pandemonium, will gain this sort of swirling mini tornado type thing around itself, and this aura will stop all of your brave gains, so all of your battery, your regens, etc. will stop them completely, and it requires you to delete a turn in order to get that to go away. So they are selling Zidane super hard here. Additionally, at the beginning of the fight, so either Panda's first turn or after your first turn, and it also happens again at, I want to say 49% and maybe 29%, I don't remember. Pandemonium will do its recast ability, which it's just an AoE brave HP attack, nothing super duper threatening. It'll hurt, but it won't kill you, probably. And it will summon 2 adds that are basically immune to HP damage. They've got like 999% HP damage reduction. Don't bother trying to kill them, okay? And the way the fight goes is every time they get a turn, they're going to be trying to hit you with AoE HP attacks. They're going to battery themselves and blow you up. So, your goal here is to burn down Pandemonium and delete its turns while kind of ignoring the adds, but controlling their turns. So, by far, easiest way to play this, run Zidane. If you really want advice, Zidane is the path of least resistance here. It is possible to run just Zidane Friend and take the fight on that way, and it's also possible to run the fight without Zidane at all. It's going to be damn hard, but you can do it. How you choose to tackle it, that's up to you. As for me, my plans, I'm going in with tickets. I have literally every other LD on this banner. I have Beatrix, I have Y'shtola, I have Rinoa, I have Y'shtola's BT. Fucking pity that, so I don't need anything else here. It would be cool to get Zidane's burst, but it's not something that I plan on using gems for here. For our second event of the month, we've got Guy's Lost Chapter. Now, Guy's coming back, and he's getting basically nothing, except for High Armor Plus, which is the support armor, but with the brave damage. It leans in the brave damage direction. And beyond that, that's all there is to say about Guy, other than that his only known rerun, as a matter of fact, is during Greg's burst cycle, Gilgamesh, where he comes out with Kefka's burst and he gets his C90, at which point Guy becomes way, way better, like stellar. The real, I don't want to say prize here because a lot of people will probably roll their eyes at that, but the main attraction on this banner is Cinque, who gets a rework as well as an LD. As for the rework, basically both of her skills gain multiple HP dumps. So skill 1 is AoE and skill 2 is single target. And the next major part of it is that all of her skills, so her skill 1, skill 2, her LD, and her EX, they all deal weakness damage against any target that has a debuff on them. And the plus versions of her skills, so skill 1, skill 2, will delay by 1 turn. So in the case of skill 2, it will delay a single target by 1 turn, and skill 1 will delay AoE 1 turn, which is pretty nice. That being said, skill 1 gets an extra use, which is fine, I guess, whatever. And skill 2 gets bravery refunded back in between its multiple HP dumps, which is really nice because you get an extra use back every time you EX. So that's nice. The plus version here on her skill 2 also gets 20% extra HP damage. So overall, it's hitting a lot harder. It's doing approximately Tifa Beat Rush type numbers, Beat Rush Plus, excuse me. So pretty solid. Her LD itself is an AoE attack with split damage and multiple HP dumps. I think it's like a 2-hit attack that triggers like 6 times or something like that. Deals a ton of damage. This is like Tifa Meteor Crusher damage, but AoE. It's really good. Once again, it deals weakness damage, and this one delays AoE by 1 turn. And if they have any number of stacks of her stun debuff up, then it will delay them an additional turn. So that's a 2-turn delay, which is really, really handy, especially for one of the fights later on in the month. Additionally, it will inflict 5 full stacks of her stun debuff to all the enemies, and then it will give her a buff. This particular buff, it's something like a Braided Lady or something like that. It gives her attack and stolen overflow up, and it also gives her Kurosame style HP damage up, where based on the number of stun stacks the enemy has, she'll do more damage. So this is going to range from 10 to 30%. Like I said, just like Kurosame. The duration of any debuff that she inflicts while this buff is up, it gets an extra turn, which that's fine, I guess. She does, if memory serves, I think she has some generic debuffs that she inflicts, but you don't really need extra duration on her stun debuff, because any enemy that she has stun stacks on while this buff is up, she'll do a follow-up on them, which is she'll battery herself, and then she'll do just a single dump brave HP attack. I think it's like 2 or 3 hits, and she'll refund some brave, so she'll gain some back after that. And this attack will add 2 stacks of stun to them, and it will put a brand new debuff on them for 2 turns. So 3 turns with this LD buff up, right? And the way that it works is this debuff is actually really, really good. It's 100% defense down. So think Shantoto's LD. 30% HP damage taken up. So that's 5 stacks of Kurosame. But the debuff ticks down after the enemy is attacked. Kind of similar to Edward's sleep debuff. Kind of similar to that. However, this is actually pretty sweet because every single time that Cinque attacks, so let's say she's using one of the plus versions of her skills, she's going to self-delay a little bit because it's got the high action delay, or the low turn rate, however you want to phrase it. So she'll push herself back, and then she'll delay the enemies by a turn, right? So it kind of evens out a little bit. And then she dispels the stun debuff, but because they already had the stacks on them, she's going to do her follow-up and then put 2 more stacks on them. So they basically never run out, and this HP damage up can last not literally forever, because it will tick down every time you attack them, but often enough that it's going to be up a lot of the time. And you can use this with other HP damage up, like calls or debuffs or whatever. So your Gabranth, your Ignis, or perhaps Kurosame, who, again, 5 stacks of that, that's a lot of damage. As for her high armor, She's got attack keystone, no surprise there, so she's going to be doing some pretty big numbers. And the armor leans in the brave direction, which is really good because her whole shtick is I'm going to hit you a couple of times, do an HP attack, hit you some more HP attack. It's like that on her EX as well, which just think about how hard her EX is going to hit when you are, because it's a triple dump EX, right, as she spins towards them, and it's got a launch attached to it. Now imagine that with 30% HP damage up, and by the way, it batters your party after the last attack when she launches. So this is actually really good, and I think she's kind of one of the low-key sleeper picks, especially for something else a little later. That being said, she has one known rerun, which is on the Ursula banner during Machina's burst cycle, and this is actually really good because Ursula she's a weird character, but she's actually really, really good. So I wouldn't fault somebody for waiting to, pick Cinque up there. But as for my plans, spoiler alert, I plan on popping in some tickets here. I did get Aphmau's LD, and I think they've got some interesting synergy there, where Aphmau can help pull Cinque up because Cinque is kind of a slower character. So that plus like a Brave Game teammate, boom, you're in. I think that this could lead to some hilarious shenanigans. As for the fight, I think they're called the Rage Gators. Basically, copy-paste of the original Guy event. Major differences, they're immune to imperil of any kind, which is kind of rough, but it'll be okay. The orb is +1 for when you deal earth damage, and then it's +5 anytime you do HP damage to a target that has an HP damage up debuff. So they're selling Cinque here, but you could also get that done with Kurosame, Gabrant, Ignis, as I mentioned. And it's, like I said, it's basically the same event as the first time around, but with higher Brave Gain reductions, which isn't great if you're not running something like Setzer or Porum or similar, but you can do it. Zidane manages the enemy turns really well, while also maintaining really decent damage, which is pretty helpful because most of your characters really aren't going to be hitting all that hard. But that being said, the enemies do not cleanse, so you can literally bust out your HP damage up calls and then just go to town on them, because this orb, it doesn't require them to ever take a turn, so you can pretty realistically no boss turn this one. Personally, I'm probably going to try either a Cypher run or possibly something silly like Y'shtola along with Porum and Cinque, so that we're getting crazy amounts of battery into these big launches and all the extra HP damage up. I think that could be really interesting. So next up in the month, we've got the event, the one that everyone's looking forward to, the release of Sid Reigns. Oh boy. On this one, we've got the new character, which is Sid, as well as a rerun of Mog, with Mog's LD, and Mog getting High Armor Plus, which is Unity Keystone, I think, and it's the party Brave Armor, which it's alright. I found myself using Mog a little more than I was expecting recently with the Equinox stuff, so that was interesting. That being said, Mog does have a known rerun on the Fran Intertwined Will stage, or the banner, rather, and that's in Jagran's BT cycle. So if you're really hard up for Mog, you could wait. It's whatever. But let's be honest, people aren't here trying to pull for Reigns. For Mog. People are interested in Reigns. They've heard that he's this crazy character, and to be fair, he's really good. His skill 1 is a self battery and then a split AoE attack that has refund, and it grants him a 6-turn buff that gives him attack and max brave up, and it gives him this follow-up attack that he does anytime that he launches an enemy, not one of your allies, just when Reigns does it. that's a battery, and then a defense ignoring brave HP attack that's triggered, I think it's twice, it might be 3 times, I don't remember. And it's got refund in between those, which is pretty decent. You know, deals a lot of damage. You know, that's what he does. That's Reigns' thing, damage. Skill 2 is a single target attack, guaranteed launch that does party refund. So it's based on how much damage the attack deals. So launches them. He's going to do his follow-up, you know, and it lets you choose any one ally, and it will warp their turn immediately after the one that Reigns just did, which pretty useful. He's got a lot of turn manipulation there and elsewhere. Speaking of which, his EX is a full cleanse, so it completely cleanses any debuffs on your party, and then it's a dispel, full AoE dispel, all of their buffs, all of your debuffs, they're gone. It's then an AoE brave attack into a single target HP attack that he does 3 times that has party refund and splash damage, and it's a guaranteed launch, and it will delay by 1 turn. When you do that, it gives him this overhead effect. It's not a buff, but it's an overhead that gives him attack, max brave, overflow, brave damage up, and chase HP damage up. So damage that he deals in a launch, right? It's 20%. And it'll give him a brave and HP plus, which you're never going to use it. No, you're not going to use it. LD is an AoE brave attack, single target, just like his EX. It's 3 dumps. The third one, the third HP attack in the sequence, does not use his brave, so he keeps it, and then he batteries the rest of the party based on how much damage he dealt, and it pulls your entire party up after Reigns. So you just get to pick which one goes first. It's like the Ignis or Ash EX, or excuse me, Ignis EX or Ash LD HP plus, right? It also is a guaranteed launch, so you're going to get to dump all that brave, and then it gives him a free skill use afterwards, as well as a single, like a one-time use HP plus that's a battery with a single brave HP attack that has splash and a single turn of delay and no action delay. So it's not a free turn, but he gets it, you know, back to back. As for the buff that he gets from his LD, it's got party HP damage plus 10%, party chase HP damage, so launch damage plus 20%, so 30% in a launch, which is pretty good. And then he gives himself an additional HP damage up for himself. And then his, I think while this buff is up, the follow-up that he has in midair becomes a triple dump attack. So pretty solid. He deals a ton of damage, and he has a lot of turn manipulation, so he's paired really well with a character like Aphmau, where you can kind of juggle back and forth between their turns. And because he's able to crank out, you know, 700,000-800,000 damage in a turn, if not 1 million or more, he's going to be a very popular pick for quite a while for people who are looking to, you know, optimize their runs, or, oh, look how much damage I can deal in a launch, or, you know, whatever. And that's fine, right? Going on to the fight, I'll give you my opinions on Reigns in a moment. The fight itself it starts out with no orb, but the orb kicks in at 80%, or excuse me, 79%, and it lasts for the rest of the fight, right? The orb is +1 on launch, and it's +8 when you deal at least 250,000 HP damage in midair. So it does not count the damage that you do with the initial launch. So let's say you're using Reigns and you use his EX or whatever. The damage that the EX deals does not count towards the orb. It only counts the launch damage dealt by the other 2 characters, as well as the damage that they take from hitting the wall. So the numbers there are kind of funky, but it's there, right? That's how it works. As far as the rest of it, the boss begins with its recast up, which is a super strong AoE brave HP attack. It deals a ton of damage. And it also starts with a 400k HP shield and this shield has 70% reduction of non-launch HP damage. So anything you do on the ground, you're dealing less damage. Anything you do in the air takes regular damage. So it's hugely selling Reigns here. It also has a frame turn anytime that this recast is up. And that's actually how the fight works. Anytime it's got its recast, frame turn, it gets the 400k shield, right? It's got really just enormously large brave gains at 79%, 49%, and then I think it's 19%. But when I say huge, it's like 180,000 or something like that. 200,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's a lot, and given that you're dealing less damage overall, it's kind of rough. That being said, it also regains the HP shield. It doesn't get it back on its other recast, I'm sorry, but it regains the HP shield at 49%, so you have to cut through it twice. All things being equal, this fight is easiest when you don't let the boss act at all. So your best bet is you could use Reigns, and that's what most people will do, along with something like Aphmau to help manipulate your turns, and then you could toss in a character like Porum, who is increasing your brave gains so that you get bigger batteries to counter the Lufenia plus reductions, right? Personally, I'm skipping Reigns, okay? I'm not all that interested in him. I've already got Mog, so I don't need to pull for that. I have Reigns as LD on JP. I think I've used him literally once. And his playstyle, it's fine. It's just not that interesting to me. He's a very, very strong character, and if you like chasing the really obviously strong characters, or if you want to go path of least resistance for a lot of fights, Reigns is a good option, but he's not for me. That being said, do not let anyone try and tell you that you cannot beat this fight, or that beating it is impossible if you do not have Sid Reigns' full kit, his EX, his LD, all that stuff, because you can. There are runs that have been recorded and uploaded to YouTube that you can find, but they do have very similar team comps, which is something in the neighborhood of like some combination of Lael, Porum, Y'shtola, I believe, Cinque, and I think I've seen one with Agrius in there as well. That's about it. You can obviously, if you don't want to pull for Reigns, feel free to use a Reigns friend or something like that. But there are runs that have no Sid Reigns in the party, no Sid Reigns call, no Sid Reigns friend unit. You can do this. Anybody who tells you that you can't is either misinformed or outright lying to you, and I would question their credibility. If you like the character, pull for him. You do you. But don't feel like you have to, or like Square is trying to force you to do it, because that is not the truth. Next in the month after Reigns, we've got Transcendence 5, which releases with Ace's LD and Burst, as well as Bartz getting his BT+, and Kimahri finally getting LD boards. So, we'll start with Kimahri, who now gets massive party healing on his LD, as well as a pretty decent battery before he then does a Brave HP attack. It's got 100% splash. It increases the duration of all of his buffs by 1. It's free skill turn afterwards, as well as a single-use HP attack that has no action delay and will instantly fill his EX gauge. And also features Party Battery, Brave Refund, and it increases his buff durations by 1. So it's a hugely efficient LD now. Additionally, the numbers on the LD get buffed a little bit. So basically it's got more Brave and HP regen, and attack and overflow, and it's now got HP damage up for the party. It's a lot better as a support tool. He's very decent. I'm not sure, I've already got his LD, I'm not sure what I want to do with that as far as whether or not, I don't think I would blue his armor, but I'd be interested in giving him a try and using him a little bit more, because I think he's got some neat tools. Speaking of tools, we've got Bartz, whose only change here is that his BT Plus now has extra effects or rather he gets a BT+, which gives his burst effect more stuff. So it gives him Party Wind Enchant at 1 stack, so immediately upon using the burst, and then at 3 stacks it increases Party Brave gains. This is really good. He's an incredibly strong burst character, and he can carry you like luggage through a lot of Lufenia Plus with how loaded his burst effect is. That being said, don't feel like you have to have his burst, or that you have to green it if you have it, because you don't. That being said, the main attraction here is definitely Ace. Ace gets a rework as well as his LD and a burst. Both of his skills get additional uses, so he can spam those skills a lot more freely. S1, his, I don't remember the name of it, the single target skill is a triple HP dump attack that now has 20% splash, so he's able to churn out a lot more damage with that. And his skill 2 is now an AoE brave attack with a single target HP attack that he does twice, and it's got 50% splash. So he is able to, his damage output will more than double on his skills. His regular buff, his what is it called, the trump card buff or something like that, it now has self brave gain and HP damage ups, which are really nice for a character like this. And he also gives party brave damage and overflow, and that's just off of the trump, that's just off of a buff that he already has. This is just part of the rework, right? The LD is where things start to get real spicy, because his LD is a split damage AoE triple dump attack, so 3 HP attacks that has refund between, so it's gonna do damage and then gain some back. It immediately maxes out his card stock, which I don't even know why this mechanic is here, because it's kind of pointless. And it will give him 3 stacks of his trump card. So ideally, this is going to be the first thing you do in the fight, because it'll get you to that 5 stack right there. It then grants him a free skill, a new HP plus that he can use once before it returns to, the normal HP plus. And it inflicts a debuff for 1 turn on the enemy. And if that debuff is already active, then he will dispel it and re-inflict it. It's kind of wonky. Basically, the way this debuff works is it's a 40% defense debuff, and then when its duration goes out, when it runs out, or if you dispel it, it becomes a different debuff and it triggers a trap attack. If you use his LD while this is up, it will do that and then reapply the buff, or the debuff, excuse me. So the trap attack, and this is unnecessarily complicated, the trap attack is a brave gain for himself, and then it's a single dump attack, single target, that has 20% splash, and then it does have party battery based on the amount of damage that it does at the end. And this triggers every single turn. So it doesn't matter if the enemy takes a turn or if one of the party members does. It's kind of like Xdet's BT effect, but in trap form. It's also quite similar to Trey's skill 1 overhead. So think in those terms, right? However, once the debuff is up, it gives them another 40% down, or 40% defense down, excuse me. And that's really good, because that you've now got an 80% defense down during Lufenia Plus, which is all about defense up, brave damage reduction, brave gain reduction. So you can largely counteract the defense in a very significant way, right? His burst is a split AoE attack. It's, damage, it's whatever. And the effect lasts for 8 turns, and it's another stacking one, kind of like Bartz, where at max stacks, it gives you party max brave and attack and overflow up, as well as HP damage up, and it increases the HP cap, so the limit of HP damage that you can deal. And then when the effect expires, like when it ends, he then does a AoE attack with 3 HP attacks, and in between the first, or after the first 2, he keeps all of his brave. So it's going to deal a massive amount of damage. Okay. Ace's kit is really loaded, and that's without the Burst Plus effect, which adds more attack and more overfall. Ace is probably the #1 sleeper pick for JP, right? A lot of people did not really go in for him, and it took a lot of people by surprise when he was so good. So do not miss out on him. Do not miss out. Get his LD at least if you can, all right? But, if you can't get his burst, it's whatever. He will come back at some point, but you want that LD, okay? For his high armor, he has the attack keystone, duh, no surprise there. And he also, for his high armor plus, it is the brave armor. So he's going to be dealing more damage on his brave hits, which is good because a lot of his stuff, like you've got his EX, you've got his trap, stuff like that, it's single dumps. And you also have because his HP cap is really high, but you also have the skill 1 and skill 2, which have the multiple dumps in there, and his LD as well. So you want each of those hits to be hitting as hard as possible so you can deal as much damage as you can. As for known reruns, he does have one. It is on a banner with Hope's LD that happens kind of in between the Null and Lock burst cycles. So that's probably, 5 or 6 months away? So if you want him down, this is the time to get him. Oh, right. Quick note. Bartz does also have a rerun, and that is with Porum. There's a pretty good banner, actually, but it is in between the Lock and Gilgamesh cycles. In case it's not obvious, I am going to be going in here for Ace. I haven't decided if I want to use gems or tickets. I could honestly see it going, kind of either way, because he is really good. As far as the fights themselves go for Transcendence, on the left side are the mechanical bird things from FEOD 14, which it's the first wave. The orb is +2 when the enemy takes damage from an attack as a result of a debuff, buff, or special effect decreasing. So basically traps. It's also a green crystal, so they're pushing Ace pretty hard here. Beatrix is really good here, even though she doesn't help out with the orb, thanks to her high damage output and her splash and battery follow-ups. Similarly, X-Death could be really useful in negating their HP damage and kind of whittling them down, but his HP poison and his burst effect and stuff like that, they don't help out the orb at all, right? Trey, on the other hand, does help manage the orb. Problem being that the stage is resistant to physical damage, though you could get through this with an enchanter. I would, however, hazard a guess that someone like Furion, Celeste, I know Leon works, and maybe Vivi, would work. These guys don't have any elemental attacks, so Leon should be able to more or less ignore everything that they do. That being said, the orb is up for the entire fight, and these guys have 12 million HP apiece. They've got a pretty good chunk of brave damage resist, and I believe up to 70% gain reductions. So your batteries are really going to be hurting. They do periodically put up a blue aura that enables a pretty annoying AoE HP attack that's got a full dispel attached to it, but they'll only do it when their brave is above a certain amount, so you want to keep them broken. They also become immune to debuffs for a turn or two while they have this sort of green aura. If you're not running Ace, I'd probably try to keep breaking them out of order so that you're not pushing them back, because it can be a little tough to manage the orb otherwise, and then just let the traps get some work done. Personally, I'll probably be using something maybe along the lines of Ace. If Vivi will trigger the orb, I'm going to try Ace, Vivi, and maybe Deuce, but I could also see trying Celeste with Furion. I'm not exactly sure how I want to do this, but I do know that it's going to be a lot of fun to mess around with. As for the right side, this is the notorious one. This one is the big knight guys. Not the ones that hide their turns, but they've got that same kind of design, the big armor guys. The orb here is +1 when they take elemental weakness damage, and then +2 when they take wind weakness damage. There are a couple of ways you can handle this, but the easiest one, at least in my opinion, is to just not let them get any turns. So Zidane is great here. That being said, these guys are immune to Imperil, and the stage requirement is a yellow crystal and requires wind damage. So a lot of people felt like this was forcing you to pull for Bartz and, get his LD, get his burst, whatever, max him out. It's not. There's plenty of ways to get around it. And a base Bartz call, just the base one, not the LD call, just the regular base, will give the caller wind enchant and the wind weakness aura for 6 turns. It's the aura. It's the Bartz Imperil aura. Okay. From there, you could do something like bringing Fujin for party wind enchant with, Zidane or some other turn stealer like Titus, whatever, to burn through their HP. You could bring Bartz, that's totally fine, but don't feel like you have to. You could pretty reasonably take Cypher, and then with the Bartz call in the party, you're good. You could bring Vaughn. Vaughn's, I think it's his White Whirl is wind element, and he's got his own Imperil, and it's his best AoE skill, so you're straight. There's plenty of options, but you just have to get a little creative. As for me, I'm thinking that I might try Zidane, Agrius, and Fujin, and give Agrius the Bartz call because she is hella slow. That being said, you could also probably take Core instead, and then just blow them away with Zidane's, 1,000,005 turns that he takes with all the deletes. As for the middle stage, we've got, it's like a mummy lord and some little mummies or something. The orb here is +2, and you get that by just keeping them below 10k brave. The orb is pretty easy. And the fight itself, to be honest with you, isn't that tough. It's just a little sneaky, right? The mechanic here is that at your typical thresholds, 79, 49, 29%, the 2 side mummies, which by the way the boss summons adds, the 2 little guys on the side will sacrifice themselves and do an HP attack and then get resummoned by the guy in the middle. If the little mummies, the side ones, are below 50% health, it's not that bad. It's a 2-hit brave HP attack. You can easily survive this, and there are ways to tank it. But if they're above 50%, the attack will dispel you and basically straight up kill whoever they're targeting. That's less great. They also have this kind of annoying debuff that's got a Raven HP poison attached to it. It's not that strong, but it is based on their attack stat. So you can bring a cleanse, but they do it so often, it might not be worth it. I don't know. It's kind of up to you. Juggling the HP as far as, keeping the ads taken care of while you're also burning down the big boss can be a little tricky, but honestly, the real enemy here is your turn count. You've got 70 turns, and the boss has, it's like 19 million HP or something like that, which is quite a lot, and he's got 90% reductions on both sides. So you're probably going to want to start popping some BT effects towards the end, because it can be pretty rough going. Beatrix is really nice for negating those threshold attacks where the boss starts sending the mummies at you and they blow themselves up. But beyond that, honestly, you better bring some kind of brave damage or brave gain ups, depending on your party, because yikes. Personally, I'm looking to bring something like Ace, maybe Agrius, and perhaps Zidane, maybe Beatrix. I haven't figured that part out exactly, but there's plenty of ways to do it. Our next event after that is going to be Aranea's Lost Chapter. where really the only thing that Aranea gets out of it is high armor plus. She's got the attack keystone, as we already know, but this is the split armor, so brave and HP damage up equally. However, the other character that's featured here is going to be Prompto, who doesn't get a rework, but he does get a pretty good LD, which, as far as the attack goes, is Party Battery, and then a split AoE attack with 3 HP dumps, or 3 Brave dumps, excuse me, with Refund on those, and then it gives him 4 stacks of his LD buff for 12 turns, and it recovers 1 use of both of his skills, which is pretty damn sweet. The LD buff itself grants party HP regen, as well as attack and brave damage up, and then it gives Prompto brave and HP damage up when he is breaking a target or attacking a broken target. And it's a pretty sizable amount. It's 30% brave and HP damage up. This comes into play with the stacking portion of his LD, which it caps at 4 stacks. He gets plus 3 stacks when he attacks one of the enemies with the, I think it's called a break mark. If you've ever played Prompto, you've seen that goofy, bluish thing that's on them. Well, when you attack them with Prompto, he gets 3 stacks of this buff, maxing at 4. And when he has at least 2 after an ally attacks, which this doesn't count counters, unfortunately, it triggers a follow-up that is an instant break, which, it's then followed by Brave Gain, and then it's a single target, double dump HP attack with 50% splash and party refund, and it inflicts a 70% attack down for 2 turns, and that will decrease his stacks by 1. So realistically, you can get 3 of those follow-ups off in a row, because it goes 4 to 3, and then when he has at least 2, he'll do it again. So you really just need to give him a few turns. It's great. His high armor is the Unity Keystone, and then he has the Brave Armor upgrade, but it's for himself, which I don't want to say it's bad, because it's not. It really does help out his ability to churn out damage on those follow-ups, but it's a little more in the spirit of what Prompto has been doing up to this point for him to get, party-based armor. As for known reruns, he's got one where he gets his C90 with, of course, Noctis on a banner that's in between the Knoll and Lock burst cycles. As for the fight itself, the orb here is +1 for dealing crit damage, and then +1 for dealing range damage. So ideally you want to be doing both at all times. These guys have attacks when their shields start glowing that do ignore brave and HP damage reduction. Why this is a thing when Zack is featured here is beyond me, because he is boosted, but whatever. An easy way for you to manage the orb here is to run Prompto, since he can just dodge those attacks. And he also has the passive healing and huge batteries, and a link attack, which will count as crit and ranged. But you could also run someone like Trey and then just coast with that, because he's got the instant break on his EX, right? On the debuff. 9 has guaranteed crits for the party, and that could also be pretty useful. But ignoring the shields and the HP damage, the buff that 9 has, that could be an issue. The bosses themselves really haven't changed that much, but don't ask me what they do, because their mechanics are weird and they never made sense to me the first time around when Aranea came through. When their shields glow, they get brave damage and gain reductions, and that's about all I know. Your best bet, power through. Boom. I might try a party here of Barrett, yikes, with Trey and Y'shtola, mostly so that Barrett can actually cap on stuff, and because the battery is going to be huge for Trey. If I can get Prompto, I might run him instead, but still with Trey because Trey is really cool. So my pull plans, I'll be using tickets for Prompto because he is an incredible kind of support utility unit, and I am really interested in messing around with his kit. Then we come to Zack, who, much like Aphmau, doesn't come with any kind of event or anything, although he is boosted for the, Aranea Lost Chapter. I literally was just talking about that. So he comes with a rework and an LD. His rework gives both of his skills 2 extra uses, so he can kind of span them a little bit more. His skill 1, Chain Slash, is now a 2-hit attack with 3 HP dumps. So it's 2 hits, and then HP, 2 hits, HP, 2 hits, HP. He gets Brave Refund in between each of those attacks, and it does have splash damage, so it will trigger the lock debuff AoE. And if the enemy that you're targeting is also targeting Zack, which why wouldn't they be, he'll do this attack twice. So it deals crazy high amounts of damage. You're looking at 600k plus easily. Skill 2 is now a defense ignoring 2-hit attack that he does 5 times. Yeah, 5. And it does have refund in between each of those, and it increases the duration of all of Zack's buffs that he gives himself by 2 turns. So he's got a lot more buff longevity, which again goes back to him being able to more or less kind of just spam skills, because why would you hit HP plus anymore? As for the LD, it is a full AoE attack, so AoE Brave hits, full AoE HP damage that he does twice. And it does extra damage when Zack is targeted, because duh, it's Zack. It then refunds Brave, and it heals the entire party with HP overflow. So think Cecil or Porum. So you can go over your max HP. It does do AoE Taunt, and it gives him a free skill afterwards. And then it gives him a single stack of an overhead buff that grants party HP regen, and then stack-based defense, brave, and HP damage taken reductions. So he helps the party take less damage. Then it gives himself overflow and HP damage up. So this is pretty loaded. You increase the number of stacks that you have, though, by Zack being attacked. So you kind of need the enemy to take turns in order to hit the cap on this one, which I believe it caps at 5, I think. As for his high armor, it is the attack keystone, which, a tank that can do that, a DPS that can tank, whichever one. And then it is the split high armor plus, so he's got the extra brave and HP caps, so he is loaded to bear, coming in with the damage. As for known reruns, his only known rerun is his own BT banner. Surprise! That being said, am I pulling here? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not that big of a Zack fan, but he is really strong. I don't know. Whenever I'm looking for a tank, I prefer to go for someone, like Galuf, or really just Galuf. Maybe Celeste. Or maybe Leon, even though Leon's not a tank, but that's a whole other conversation. I don't know, I've never been the hugest Zack fan, and I know a lot of people really love him, and I don't want to commit to, using him just because I got his LD, because I would feel bad not ever using it. But much like Reigns, why pull for it if you're not going to use it, For the last event of the month, we've got the Heretics with Quistis' LD, who comes along with Palom, but Palom gets nothing new from this, so I'm not going to even bother discussing him. Quistis, however, gets a rework. So her S1, her laser whip, now hits harder and does weakness damage to debuffed enemies, and now it gets 50% splash, which means that when it also gets its 1-turn delay, it's now AoE delay, which is really, really good, because she didn't have anything like that before. Her skill 2 gets 2 additional uses, which, game changer, and then the attack itself becomes a double HP dump skill with no action delay and weakness damage on it. So she's going to be hitting a lot harder. As for the LD, it does a party battery and then a full AoE single dump attack. So pretty big damage, but not as much as like a split attack that's you do multiple times. But it's whatever. It gets weakness damage if they're debuffed, much like the rest of her kit. And it's a 2-turn delay that recovers a single use of skill 2. So now you've got a lot more 3-turn delays, right? Then it gives her a stacking LD buff for 12 turns that increases every time one of your allies acts, but it gets reset back to 1 anytime an enemy acts, and it starts at 1. While this buff is up, Quistis' delays cannot be ignored, with the exception of, break delays, which means Quistis can now ignore framed turns. What? At maximum stacks, it grants party attack and max brave, pretty good chunk of it too, as well as brave damage up and brave gain up, much like Porum, Y'shtola, and Agrius. And it gives her an improved brave and HP plus, but let's be real, you're not using that. As for her high armor, it is the encouragement keystone, so even more battery, and she's got the party HP damage up, which is pretty good considering, yeah, she does have brave hits in her kit, but like everything she does has, a billion hits to it. So, hey, get it how you live. You know what I mean? As for known reruns, she does have one. It is with her C90 when she comes back on Yuri's Intertwine Wills during Gilgamesh's burst cycle. As for the fight, this is the infamous you have to have Quistis or Cod fight, which is true but not true. So the orb here is +1 when the enemy is delayed, and then it's +10 when they're delayed by at least 2 turns, so 2 or more. And there's not a ton of units that can do it, but there are a few, like Cypher, Cloud, Cinque, Aranea, and Sabin. Okay? But that being said, the fight isn't exactly brainless either. The enemies will gain a pretty big HP shield that you can see they've got this like little yellow aura around them, and then they become immune to delay, and they will heal themselves on their next turn unless you break the shield. And then at 49%, and this is where all the Doom posting comes from, at 49% they put on an HP regen aura that is not a buff, and it is 10% of their max HP, or slightly less than 10%, because it's 700,000 HP. And it stays there until you delay them by 3 turns. Now, you can get through this with a Cloud of Darkness friend. Those are still a thing, right? They can take care of that, and so can Quistis, since she's got 5 uses of her skill 2, and she's got her C65 to get 1 back, and her LD can give her more, right? This wouldn't be all that bad, except they do both of these. They get the HP shield, and they get the HP regen simultaneously at 29%. So you've got both of those effects going up at once, which, wow. Brave damage is heavily reduced over the course of the fight, but brave gains aren't taxed all that badly. So they're definitely encouraging you to run a battery and delay team here, aka Quistis. However, do be aware that just because you don't have Quistis' LD doesn't mean you can't do this fight. These enemies do not have all that much HP. It's like 6 or 7 million each. And if you've got any kind of burst plus character, and I'm talking just a book in them, 0 out of 3, the burst plus attack by itself will deal around 1 million damage, give or take. And that's, 15-ish% of their health minimum. So you do not have to take Quistis with her LD. you could take a 35 CP Quistis to this fight and still get it done. Okay? Just be aware of your options. Anybody that says you've got to have, LDs here, you've got to run Cloud of Darkness, whatever. Not true. Okay? You're gonna want something. You're gonna want a 3-stage delay somewhere, because these guys will regen a ton of health, and they do it twice in the fight. But okay, you've got 5 uses of the skill 2, and then you've got 1 off the C65, so that's 6 total. Okay, they only do this twice. They do it at 49%, and they do it at 29%, which means you only need 2 uses for each one. That's 4. You're good. 35 CP Quistis. You can do it. It's not going to be fun, but you can do it. As for what I want to run, I'm not exactly sure yet, but I am pulling here because I am fond of Quistis. She's always been pretty fun in this game, and she damn well better be, because I think I spent like 70k trying to get her EX back when it first came out, back when I think we just barely had pities, and this was, during, I think it was back-to-back Rosa, Lena, Quistis, and they all cleaned me out. So, yeah, I'm going in here. I like her costume. It's really cool. I do wish that we had more Seed costumes, though, so Zell win. If I get her LD, I'll probably be rerunning something like Quistis along with Cinque, and then maybe Y'shtola? Maybe Ace. I don't know. Bartz would probably also be good. But if I don't get her LD, I would probably take something like Cypher and Cloud of Darkness along with Bartz or Y'shtola. Although, just for the memes, I might do Cypher and Quistis with like Bartz or something like that. Just crank out the damage, boom. I'm using an EX only character. So I'm going in with tickets because ignoring game mechanics is fun. So overall, those are my thoughts for the month. I see it looks like I'm going to be pulling here for Zidane, whatever, as well as Cinque, probably with tickets on both of those. And then I'm thinking tickets for... I'm going to skip Reigns. And then I haven't decided tickets or gems, but I definitely want to get Ace. And then after that, tickets for Prompto and Quistis, and then maybe a little something for, Zack. Whatever. Hopefully I won't have to dip into the gems too much. And as far as my teams, I see myself using a lot of Y'shtola and probably a fair bit of Lael. And I definitely want to try and get some Cypher fun runs, maybe with Rinoa, done here. I see that I think the Quistis Heretics will probably be the one that's most difficult for me to get done with X-Death, because you're really not trying to let them get a bunch of turns, so that could be an issue. But beyond that, this shouldn't be that bad. The start of an era is always going to be a little rough because you've got that kind of period of adjustment. But once we get rolling, we get past the first event or two, everything's going to be fine. So don't worry about it. If you've been reading a lot of posts on Reddit or crazy YouTube comments or things people are putting in streams and stuff like that, just calm down. It's not the end of the world. It's really not that bad. I do play global, I play JP. I wasn't super active during this period because, if memory serves, I was too busy playing Destiny, and I was kind of playing JP a little casually. I believe I got Zidane's LD and Burst, and I think that was about it. But I did do, kind of basic content for this, so it's doable. If you don't get Reigns, if you don't get Zidane, whatever, you can still get this content done. Don't freak out, okay? It's okay. It's not the end of the game. And if for whatever reason you just can't beat a stage, that's okay too. You don't necessarily have to complete absolutely everything. It doesn't make you any less of a player or gamer or whatever. So just have some faith in yourself, and if you're having trouble, do some research. Don't put up a post on Discord asking for help from people and expect something other than 30 replies of, oh well, I got through it just fine running Cid and Aphmau and Bartz and it was easy, why don't you just do that? And it turns out that you don't have these characters. Okay, if you're having issues, absolutely ask people for help, but also don't be afraid to educate yourself, because the resources are out there. You pop into some of the more information-based Discords, you check out some content creators, go to YouTube, check out Call to Arms. There'll be tons of runs that are listed in there. Go take a look at Reddit, because back when this came out for JP, every time that this happens, there's a thread around the time that these events release that's talking about, Divine Pandemonium Lufenia plus info and strategy. These things exist. Make use of these resources. Stand on the backs of the giants that came before you. Okay? Don't be afraid to ask for help, but also don't be afraid to go out there and find that information and learn something for yourself as well. It's better to learn and to take that information and go forward into the game with that and make a better player out of yourself than to rely on other people to walk you through it step by step, if that makes sense. Like I said, asking for help, absolutely, do what you got to do, but it's okay to fail, and it's okay to try and figure it out yourself first. Okay, seriously, go to YouTube, check out Ficht Hanaji or Black Nero or Alphano or VL or any of these other people, for real. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. That's all I really have to say. Hopefully we don't get anything too crazy going on here. As far as greens, I really want to green Y'shtola and Bartz if I can, because I love both of them. Bartz is, I'm not going to say he's my absolute favorite character for Final Fantasy V, because, hello, Ferris, but he's right up there. And Y'shtola is hands down my favorite Final Fantasy XIV character. So, I really want to be able to get those done. But next month, we turn around and we also have Vayne, and that's going to happen. So, I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care.